For the survivors struggling to play against him and the killer struggling to play as him, here is absolutely everything you need to know about this tiny little shithead. Also, I'm sick right now, so sorry if I sound like a DBD killer myself. Chucky is the main antagonist from the Child's Play movie. He's one of the good guy dolls, which is a popular doll brand in this universe. I don't know why anyone would ever buy something that looks like this, but I digress. A man named Charles Lee Ray used voodoo magic to transfer his soul into the body of one of the good guy dolls just before he died, so he became a doll with the strength of a man inside of him. So even though he technically died, he could still continue his murder spree just in the size of a doll as tall as you. Chucky is probably one of my favorite slasher horror characters just because he's so goofy. I thought he was really dumb before watching the movie, but afterwards I actually liked him a lot. I would generally recommend watching it if you like comedy horror. Also, the voice actor in DBD is the same voice actor from the movies until it became Luke Skywalker for some reason. Chucky has a very simple power that secretly has a ton of depth, so I'm going to make you guys know exactly what all of the intricacies of his kit are. Even if you're a survivor main, you should know all of this because it'll make him easier to counter. Let's start with the basics. He has a regular terror radius and is a 4.4 meters per second killer, so he walks slower, similar to Huntress, Spirit, or Deathslinger, but when your ability goes off cooldown, you're able to sprint really fast and do an attack at the end called Slice and Dice. This is the best part of this character, and it's one of the most fun abilities in the game, besides my ability to make survivors salty in endgame chat. You slide off of walls and can kind of curve your camera, though it's pretty hard to do so. It's pretty similar to using like a short form version of Oni's ability. My biggest tip is to look where you want to end up and strafe left or right to get around the corner instead of trying to charge straight and then turn. Does that make sense? Like, look at this background footage. If you turn your camera before your dash, you'll just slide off the wall in the direction you're going, and you don't have to struggle with the difficulty of turning during the dash. When I started playing Chucky, I kind of assumed that when you dash and come into contact with the survivor hitbox, it'll automatically hit them, since that's how it works for literally every other killer. But this isn't true. You have to manually let go of right click to attack during your dash. Otherwise, you'll just continue to go until the maximum distance before it forces you to attack. But that can be used in your advantage. We'll get to that later. You can do some absolutely insane stuff with Slice and Dice, and I haven't been on Twitter much lately, but I can guarantee that there have been people on there posting exploits that, allow you to completely switch directions or flick around corners, and are most definitely claiming them as a tech with their name on it. No hate though, get that bag. Someday I'll have a Kaido quick flick. To be able to perform this dash, you have to be in To be able to perform this dash, you have to be in hidey-ho mode by pressing control when your power is ready. Hidey-ho mode makes you undetectable, so you lose your red stain and terror radius. Since you're short though, they implemented a footstep feature from the survivor's perspective where they can see your footsteps through walls nearby. Honestly, this was a very creative way to combat the annoyance of a short character, so props to you, behavior. In hidey-ho mode, however, it creates a bunch of random footprints in random places to completely confuse the survivors. So if you see these footprints as the survivor, prepare yourself for a knife in your ribcage. And lastly, arguably the most uninteractive part of Chucky, Scamper. Chucky can crawl under pallets or over windows while dashing, which can sometimes put survivors into completely uncountable situations. Luckily, it's pretty hard to control, so usually the survivor can just move to one side or the other and the killer will have a hard time flicking to you, but sometimes the survivor will get hit no matter what they do. He's also able to crawl under pallets without having to dash, as long as you're in hidey-ho mode, and on many loops, you're able to catch up to the survivor before they can make it back around to vault the pallet. So if you're playing as Chucky, try not to get stunned by the pallet so you can take advantage of this. And if you're playing survivor, do whatever you can to knock that bitch in the dirt. Respectfully. Chucky is unironically one of the strongest killers in the game in my opinion, just behind Nurse, Blight, and Spirit, so here are some strengths that you should take note of. Fast downs. With your Slice and Dice ability, you can easily down people from extremely far away, and since you're so fast while dashing, you can do quick mind games to really confuse the survivors. Scamper. Being able to crawl under pallets or vault over windows while dashing can allow you to get some crazy hits. Avoiding body blocking. This is what I was referring to earlier. Since you have to manually let go to swing when dashing, you can use this to your advantage. If a survivor is trying to body block for another survivor, you can Slice and Dice to slide right past them and get the hit. Height. Since you're so short, it's obviously much harder for the survivors to see you from a distance, which brings me to his next strength, stealth. This killer is unbelievably stealthy. If you run him with stealth perks, you can catch so many survivors off guard because they usually have to rely on your terror radius to know that you're coming. If you don't have a terror radius, well, good luck to the survivors. Corner peeking. This is generally one of the most underappreciated and undiscussed aspects of his kit. Since he's in third person, you could see survivors before they can see you. And as a stealth character who could quickly get from point A to point B, I'm sure you can imagine why corner peeking is so strong. Perk synergies. There are a ton of perks that that can pair really well with his kit. Here's a list of perks that I think can be useful based on my current experience playing as Chucky. A link to the wiki page of each perk and what they do will be in the description of the video. A Nurse's Calling because you can sneak up to people healing while you have no tear radius and then slice and dice them. Bamboozle to block windows when you scamper them. Barbecue and Chili to know exactly where to go after getting a hook, as well as exactly when to go into hidey-ho mode without them hearing your tear radius. Bitter Murmur to slice and dice people from far away when they don't know you're coming. Blood Warden because it's difficult to body block this killer, so you'll surprisingly get a lot of downs in the endgame. Dark Devotion to make your tear radius really confusing. Deadlock because he needs slowdown for better map pressure. Hubris because after you get stunned, you could use your ability to just crawl under the pallet and hopefully catch up to them. Mindbreaker to prevent exhaustion perks when you try to use your slice and dice. Monitor and Abuse to get closer to the survivors before having to start your hidey-ho mode. No Way Out for big maps since every gen will probably get done. Nowhere to Hide to slice and dice people nearby without them knowing that you can see them. Pain Res for map pressure reasons. And Trail of Torment to be extra stealthy. And for his last but certainly not least strength, Verbal Abuse.
Take this, dipshit!
Although he's a very strong killer, he does have a lot of weaknesses to balance him out. Pallets. I know I said that pallets are his strength, but that's if you don't get stunned from the opposite side of the map. I swear every time I get stunned, I'm not even remotely close to the pallet. So just keep in mind that you should be at least 1 meg length away from the pallet at any given time. Mobility. Although he can slice and dice to quickly traverse a small portion of the map, it's usually better to save your ability for when you're near a survivor. You're much better off using it to get a hit than to save a couple seconds walking somewhere. Corners. The movement of your slice and dice is pretty similar to Oni or Billy, where it's difficult to turn left or right, so survivors can easily use corners to prevent themselves from getting hits. You can technically angle your body to slide off of objects to get a hit, but if you're scampering through a window or a pallet, you won't be able to do this. That is, until Twitter finds a new move in exploit. Follow me on Twitter, by the way. Mind games. Since survivors can see your footsteps through walls, it's almost impossible to do mind games if you don't have your ability. This makes a lot of loops stronger for the survivors because they essentially have wall hacks. Vaulting. Since you're so short, Behavior decided to make him play the survivor vault sound whenever he vaults a window, so it's much easier for the survivors to hear when he vaults. This means that vault mind games like the double vault as Shaq will not work. However, a lot of people don't know that if you're in hidey-ho mode, it suppresses that vault sound so the survivors can't hear it at all, which can actually let you do the double vault mind game without it being expected. Automatic scamper. Unfortunately, if you're dashing and come in contact with a window, it'll force you to automatically vault even if you didn't want to. I've had many of these moments where I'm trying to angle myself to get a hit around the wall, but get interrupted by an automatic scamper, so just keep that in mind. A lot of these moments have led to me losing the game. Map pressure. Since he has pretty bad mobility, it's hard to keep up good map pressure throughout the game, so you have to really focus on pulling survivors toward you by downing and hooking them in specific areas rather than pulling yourself towards the survivors. And lastly, his heart. If the survivors find a gun in a chest, good luck. Chucky has quite a few add-ons that decently help him out, but nothing that really changes the way that he plays like Myers add-ons. Here are some good ones that I would recommend. The Good Guy box decreases the slice and dice hit cooldown by 7%, which is pretty decent for a Brown. The Jump Rope extends your slice and dice by 8%, and this is one of my go-tos because bigger is always better. Power Drill reduces hidey-ho cooldown by 15% if you get a successful slice and dice, so this is really good for chaining multiple dashes in a faster succession. Hairspray and Candle reduces the penalty of basic attacks when in hidey-ho by 20%, which could allow you to get a slice and dice in just before the timer runs out. Portable TV increases the slice and dice by 70% once the exit gates are powered, which will really help you because you can't get a 4K before the last gen pops, you noob. Running Shoes gives you a 2% haste for 5 seconds after scampering, which may or may not help you catch up to someone before they can make it around back to the pallet. Straight Razor is great for applying additional slowdown. It's just one of those add-ons that applies the Sloppy Butcher effect if you hit someone with your power. And lastly, his 2 Eries, Hard Hat and Iridescent Amulet. Hard Hat instantly breaks pallets when you scamper under them, just like Eerie Button on Legion, but it ends your ability. Hen said that it's worse than base kit, and I trust that man with my life, so you should probably too. Iridescent Amulet makes your slice and dice 50% longer, but if you do a basic attack while in hidey-ho mode, it ends your power immediately. But that doesn't happen very often, so I would argue that it's worth it and is a fantastic addition to your loadout. Chucky's unique teachable perks are honestly pretty solid, and I definitely recommend taking off your force slowdown build and trying them out when you get a chance. His best one in my opinion is Friends Till the End, which has 2 different effects. If you hook the obsession, a random person screams and becomes the new obsession, and if you hook a non-obsession, the obsession's aura is revealed for 10 seconds and they become exposed for 20 seconds. This perk is decent on Chucky, but on killers that have high mobility and really good map pressure, this perk is going to be extremely strong, allowing you to turn long chases into quick insta-downs. The next best perk in my opinion would be Hex 2 Can Play, which activates after being stunned or blinded twice. From then on, you whip out an Uno reverse card and any survivor that stuns or blinds you becomes blinded themselves. This perk can make it much easier for you to take advantage of other perks like Hubris, and can also force survivors to pre-drop pallets, which is honestly really useful on Chucky himself since you could just scamper under the pallet. His worst perk would probably be Batteries Included, but it's not that bad of a perk. It gives you a 5% speed boost whenever you're within a 12-meter radius of a generator. The problem with this perk is that you usually don't want to be near these completed gens because you should probably be patrolling the gens that still need to be worked on, so it's kind of a pointless perk until the end game when every gen is completed, which means that a lot of places on the map will give you this 5% speed boost. This could be a decent perk for endgame builds and could potentially be clutch for some situations. If you learned something new, drop a like and comment what killer you want me to do next. If you want to see more how-to videos like this, check out this playlist on screen now.